For the past few years, I've noticed I've become increasingly more tired of open world video games. What started as an innovative and creative design for gaming has slowly become trite and overwhelming. Open world games on the surface are better than linear games. I mean, why is the God of War unable to clear some trees from his path so him and his son can get to their destination quicker? Make no mistake though, a linear game isn't necessarily bad just because it isn't fully open world. Just like an open world game isn't inherently bad because it has the same format of hundreds of games released before it. God of War Ragnarok was one of the best games released in 2022, but so was Elden Ring in my humble opinion. However, my feelings on the matter as someone who's played video games their entire life is far from black and white, like most things in life. Well, except for mint chocolate anything. You're disgusting. When I go to pick up a new open world nowadays, I feel a sense of excitement, but also wariness. 17-year-old me didn't have to worry about how long it would take to get through a game. I had more free time than I knew what to do with. Now though, I find that myself, a completionist, is able to get through less and less games in a year. Many of the games I pick up have dozens upon dozens of hours of content, sometimes even hundreds, to do in order to reach completion. 100%ing certain modern games feels like a slog, with many of them being congested, repetitive, and boring. I do realize that if I didn't 100% all of my games, then I'd probably enjoy them more, but I can't do that. I have autism and obsessive compulsive disorder. I love open world games. It's a sense of exploration that they make you feel. I love learning the map of a game like the back of my hand. I love completing tasks, however menial they may be. But I also feel fatigued by open world games, which is a shame because some of the most creative and enjoyable gaming experience I've had have been open worlds. I'm not alone in this feeling either. Does anyone else find open world games absolutely tedious? I don't have the patience for open world games anymore. Open world games, the more I play, the worse it gets. Endlessly long open world games sometimes feel like a chore and I find myself looking forward to them ending. I know that many others have covered the problems with open world games, but I wanted to give my own 2 cents on the matter. I just haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Today, I hope to supply a new perspective on video games as I enter the gaming subgenre of YouTube with this video. I can only hope that this video finds the positive side of the gaming community. Oh, wait. That doesn't exist. It goes without saying that video games have evolved a lot over the past decades, from the Atari to whatever this is. Many have tried to pinpoint exactly which game had the first open world, a video game concept that allows the player to traverse wherever they please in what is often a large map. Some open world games even allow the player to complete main story quests in whatever order they want, though there are still some limitations present, even in the most open of worlds due to technical or story-related reasons. A lot of people consider the original Legend of Zelda as the first open world. As Den of Geek reported, it's a game so non-linear that people have been able to get all the way to Ganon without even picking up a single sword. The Legend of Zelda wasn't necessarily the first open world game though. In the same article, they referenced 1981's Ultima and 1984's Elite, while an Ars Technica article credited the first open world game to the 1976 text-only game Colossal Cave Adventure for the PDP-10. Text-only open world sounds like an oxymoron, but as the author wrote, its open world may have been sparse and populated by little more than dragon ducks and simple geometric shapes, but its relative vastness enabled players to imagine magnificent adventures of their own making. Major strides would be made upon the release of Super Mario 64 in 1996, not only in open world game design, but also in 3D game design as a whole, with its introduction of smooth camera controls and revolutionary, at the time, graphics. There goes Nintendo again, setting the artistic blueprint for modern games while simultaneously being the most anti-consumer company in the gaming world. Compared to today's open worlds, Super Mario 64 wasn't a huge, expansive world with continuity in every direction. Rather, its design of allowing the player to enter certain levels at any order, combined with the star collection system, allowed for an open-ended feeling to the world. Yes, the player would need a certain amount of stars to open some doors, but you could collect stars from a level in any order you wish, all while being able to dick off in any direction within the level. Let's be honest with ourselves. We were all dropping the baby penguin off of the cliff instead of collecting any stars. Another credit would go to Nintendo when The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time debuted in 1998. It and the 2000 release of Majora's Mask only expanded on Mario's open world elements. I mean, in Majora's Mask, you could complete the 4 temples in any order you wish. At the time, that was a big deal. Grand Theft Auto, released in 1997, would also add innovation to the open world format. True to the title, you could steal any car you wanted. You could also sell them, get their license plates and paint color changed, and use them for other criminal activity. The police responded at escalating levels. You could get different kinds of guns too, and there was bonus money awarded during killing sprees. And if you wanted some actual structure, you could engage in missions, usually involving drugs or murder, delivered from phone booths dotted around the cities. Grand Theft Auto 3 would continue to define the open world genre, with executive producer Sam Houser describing it as Zelda meets Goodfellas, while producer Dan Houser also citing The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64 as influences. Again, like most open worlds, you couldn't just do whatever you wanted. GTA suffered from, and still does, technical limitations. You were in a huge city, but you couldn't enter most of the buildings. While this limitation doesn't make it the exact definition of an open world, I couldn't imagine why that element would be necessary, nor could I imagine how much time it would take to craft a world with that amount of interactivity. Ubisoft would later be credited as simultaneously redefining and ruining open worlds. The 2007 release of Assassin's Creed took new leaps in game design. The streets seemed bustling with activity, and despite the game's focus on parkour, on an effortless taming of the urban environment for the purposes of efficient movement, there was no color coding of walls or bricks or other grabbable, hoppable objects. Entering the next decade, players were gifted with the release of Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption, which offered an immersive and incredibly realistic world to the player on top of a story that was a masterstroke in open world storytelling. 8 years later, and Rockstar would continue to innovate in their open worlds with the new Red Dead Redemption 2. Matthew Bird wrote in Den of Geek saying, "The game's incredible narrative and shockingly entertaining exploration mechanics elevated it." With the reported $100 release of GTA 6 on the horizon, it's likely that Rockstar will be adding even more features to their game design that will define the next generation of open world games. Maybe in GTA 6 we'll be able to enter any building that we want, but who knows? No one has ever made an open world game that interactive before. Wait, did I just completely skip over Breath of the Wild? Hey, that's something the next generation of gamers will do too, since it'll cost $90 on the Switch too. Let's hear it for corporate greed. Give it up for corporate greed, yeah. My love-hate relationship with Nintendo aside, we can't ignore the major strides and issues that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild created. I remember when Breath of the Wild was released. I was in 8th grade and hadn't gotten my first phone yet. My mom was picking me up right after school so that we could go to GameStop to get my pre-order. My pre-ordered Wii U version. We couldn't afford a Switch, alright. Anyway, she was late and I was outside the pickup area wondering where she was, and I ended up having to use a teacher's cell phone to call her. How embarrassing. I mean, thank God I got a phone the next month so that I could ruin my adolescent brain for life with social media. Playing Breath of the Wild for the first time as a Zelda fan was honestly insane. When Link walked to the edge of that cliff and you could just see all of Hyrule in the distance, I sobbed. I still sob when I think about it. Sorry, I'm going through a lot right now. Watching the trailers leading up to Breath of the Wild's release left me feeling hesitant and uncertain. I remember one common criticism that people had for the game before it came out was that the world looked and felt too barren. It was just fields with trees in them. The game, it seemed, had little to no substance. Clearly, these people had forgotten what previous Zelda games looked like. I was one of those people though. I was extremely doubtful of how it would feel playing this redesigned installment in the series. Breath of the Wild was incredible, but it was far from perfect. Its open world, however, was innovative. There's no argument about it. The open world of Breath of the Wild integrates multiplicative gameplay, where objects react to the player's actions, and the objects themselves also influence each other. Along with the physics engine, the game's open world also integrates a chemistry engine, which governs the physical properties of certain objects and how they relate to each other, rewarding experimentation. Breath of the Wild was one of the first, to my knowledge, open world games where you could truly interact with everything. Link could climb almost every surface, you could enter every building, you could slice through whatever you wanted, including human beings. You could kill any animal, grab any fish. It was truly incredible. While the world did feel barren at times, Calamity Ganon infesting Hyrule offered a story explanation for why Link could traverse for miles without seeing another soul. Well, except for a bad actor or two. Breath of the Wild's open world also suffered from issues that are common within other games, like the repetitive nature of completing tasks. I mean, it is straight up insulting that all I got after making my obsessive compulsive brain gather 900 pieces of shit was just another giant piece of shit. Where other games suffered from a map swamped with icons though, Breath of the Wild kept only the essentials, shrines and Sheikah towers, visible on the map, leaving the rest of the discovery up to the player and their collection of stamps that they could place anywhere on the map. It's undeniable that Breath of the Wild's game design became a blueprint for modern open worlds, with plenty of copycat games emerging within the coming years. But while the game's world design was incredible, the story suffered as a result. I know that open world games, and games in general, don't necessarily need to have a groundbreaking story in order for them to be amazing. Minecraft exists. Sorry, I just remembered that the Minecraft movie exists.
Oh no, not again! Oh my god, are you alright?
Your head is huge!
Anyway, despite this, we can't ignore the story elements of games just because it's not always the most important part of a game for every player. Elden Ring, which I'll discuss later, did not captivate me because of its amazing story. It became one of my favorite games because of the world, and also because I like self-torture. It builds character. In Breath of the Wild's case, its lackluster story was a deal breaker for many longtime fans, including me. Despite this though, it still went on to become one of my favorite games. In the same case with Elden Ring, it's not one of my favorite games because of the memorable story, it's because I love the gameplay and the world. Zelda has long been known for its adventure, yes, but also its unique and sometimes terrifying characters. It's also pretty easy for anyone to connect with stories of courage, love, and heroism. For some players, it felt like the story element was missing, leaving a really big black hole in Breath of the Wild's game design. Why activate the Divine Beast or save Hyrule when there's no real time limit or stakes? I could roleplay all day with NPCs' daily schedules for all I care. It's this freedom to explore that is at odds with linear storytelling. It's almost impossible to balance the illusion of freedom with the player's progression while ensuring each plot and story point are timed well for full impact. In the case of games that attempt a cohesive, meaningful narrative, linear storytelling and open world game design are fundamentally incompatible, and their struggle to coexist can sabotage an entire game. But at the time, these two simply got out of each other's way. There's still plenty to do with a sandbox environment that doesn't rely on narrative cohesion. But open world games also suffer in other ways when they are not given structure. Maybe it's not linear narrative that is the problem, but rather the expectation and illusion of player freedom. Breath of the Wild's new open world was combined with a sort of open story format where you could activate the divine beasts in any order and gather Link's memories as you please. You don't even need to do any of this though, since you could trot right into Hyrule Castle immediately after you acquire the paraglider. While the story may not have felt like it had real stakes, the any order formatting, despite how ironic it seems, actually helped the narrative to feel somewhat cohesive. It's a video game after all. Sure, waiting 500 in-game hours to save Zelda may feel unrealistic, but so does riding a fish person. I mean, in the lead up to entering Vah Ruta, I'm not talking about anything else. While you could write off the storytelling in Breath of the Wild as just part of the experience since it didn't dramatically impact important story elements of the game, you couldn't do that as easily with its 2023 sequel, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom took Breath of the Wild's openness and compounded it, allowing Link to pick up any item with the Ultra Hand ability and go virtually anywhere due to the infamous 2-fan and 1 steering stick combo. Playing Tears of the Kingdom for the first time was honestly insane. It had been years since we finally got a new Zelda game. When Link jumped off that cliff, I cried. I'm sorry. I know we just did this. It's just I have a really bad emotional attachment to this series. I loved exploring the one huge sky island. When I finally jumped down into Hyrule, I was so excited to see how the world had changed from when I last played Breath of the Wild. A whole day before on May 16th. Like most, I didn't even know the depths were a thing until the game's release. I was excited and overwhelmed. Can you tell that's a common theme in this video? At first, that overwhelming feeling was enthralling, but after playing the game for so long, I didn't feel all that excited anymore. I was dreading obsessively collecting 1,000 Koroxes while watching shitty reality TV in my living room every night. I realize that both of those are a choice. I don't think that Tears of the Kingdom's or Breath of the Wild's open worlds are bad by any means. Far from it. But what made Breath of the Wild feel innovative and fun was the same thing that made Tears of the Kingdom feel dull and bloated. Now we had a whole sky area to clear, with many of the islands feeling unrewarding in themselves, and a giant underbelly of Hyrule that was pretty much the same thing repeated over and over again in every distance. On top of this, the free-for-all story format didn't work that well this time around, seeing how the player could accidentally retrieve Zelda's memories in the wrong order, spoiling her fate pretty early on in the game, completely depriving the player of any reason to feel actually invested in the story. I actually did this when I played through the game and, because I'm dumb, didn't realize that I spoiled almost the entire story for myself, so I ended up just feeling confused every time I collected a new memory. Haven't we already been over this? The bottom line is that even the most innovative of open worlds struggle to get everything just right. How do you create a completely interactive world where the player has the freedom to roam and discover new things while also creating a compelling story? Most games haven't gotten this right. A bigger map with even more content has become a marketing campaign for AAA developers. Instead of investing quality time into their world, creating rewarding side quests and discovery, they'd rather pump out a bigger map each year with even more useless shit to do so that they can say their game has 500 hours worth of content. These games are bloated, time-consuming, and repetitive. On top of this, some developers clearly do not put enough time into these games before release, leading to half-baked messes like Cyberpunk 2077 and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
But hey, at least you can say they have an open world!
It's generally agreed amongst both players and journalists that many open world games are bloated, and that bloat is bad. The eye rolls when developers announce that their next game is the biggest ever are no longer confined to the press box. You can hear the scratch of those eyes rolling in their sockets all across the gallery. For players who consider gaming their primary hobby, they too have a stack of games they want to get through, and unnecessary padding not only slows them down, it makes each individual experience worse. There's still a place for huge games that justify the time sink and allow you to immerse yourself, but it shouldn't be the standard. Bigger isn't always better, but it isn't always worse either. At the same time though, open world games have become the standard. Even Mario Kart is getting an open world rebrand, as well as a $90 price rebrand, but that's a topic for another day. A newer player is more likely to pick up a modern game with a huge open world than pick up a linear indie game that only takes 5 hours to complete. Open worlds are a blessing and a curse. For a completionist, huge open worlds are a nightmare. I'm almost 200 hours into my first Elden Ring playthrough, and I have 2 more to go until I can say that I've 100%ed the game. I even made an entire roadmap for myself. Yes, there is something wrong with me. The truth is, while I can complain all I want about open world games, this is partly a problem of my own creation. In an article from PC Gamer, the author explains how open world games are better enjoyed if you can turn off your gamer brain, that incessant need to complete every map marker, to do every side quest, to 100% the game. Companies also weaponize gamer brain against us. Gamer brain is that compulsion to clear all of those icons off the map in The Witcher 3 regardless of how much fun you're having. Without question marks priming me for every discovery, I was able to rein in my gamer brain. I stumbled over monster nests in the woods in a way that felt natural, and the occasional treasure hunt in a quiet village was a nice little puzzle to solve with my Witcher senses. I can't turn this off though, and while the author makes a good argument, the fact of the matter is that it's a good thing for gamers to want to do everything that a game has to offer. If they don't feel a pull to do that, then are you really creating that good of a game? I don't think that we should put this responsibility on the consumer. Rather than us turning off that part of our brain, video games developers should consider creating games that offer rewarding experiences for gamers who want to complete everything it has to offer. Now when we buy games, we aren't just considering the price, we're considering how much of our times we're willing to invest in them. If discovering everything isn't going to be rewarding, why would I, a completionist, even bother to buy the game? Of course, there are times that I buy games without knowing what I'm signing up for, leading me to force feed myself the game as I sit for hours on end to 100% it to get some sort of imaginary achievement so I can feel satisfied with life for once. I'm usually very picky with video games in a way that I'm not with something like a TV show. Gaming is an expensive hobby. I usually carefully consider whether I'm going to buy a game for hours on end before I actually purchase it. Honestly though, I do that with everything I buy because my obsessive compulsive brain tells me that I need to make the right decision whenever I buy something. I think I just realized that this entire video is actually just about my undiagnosed OCD. Seriously though, I'm not one to buy games just going off of a whim. About 3 years back, however, I did just that, and I regret it to this day. Up until that point, I never played an Assassin's Creed game. Call me a fake gamer, I don't care. I had no interest in it. In November of 2020 though, Assassin's Creed Valhalla was released. This time, I was interested. I had finished playing through 2018's God of War the last year, and I was on a Norse mythology kick. I bought it on sale for about $40 a couple months after it came out. When I first dived into the game, I was into it, but then as the story kept going and highlighted point after highlighted point kept yielding uninteresting reward after uninteresting reward, I began to crash out. For a player who isn't rushing in the game, the story alone in Valhalla takes about 50 or so hours. For a player like me, completing the game and getting the Platinum Trophy takes about 120 hours. That's 5 days of my life wasted. If you're active in gaming communities online, you've probably heard all of the criticisms of this game already, and because it's been a while since I played it, I will link some reviews on YouTube down below that outline my points in more detail. Essentially, Assassin's Creed Valhalla suffers from Ubisoft's own formula. The issue at the forefront of Ubisoft's games is the promise and the curse that comes with an open world, the company's signature framework for games. While some open world games slowly reveal a map, only letting you get access to certain spots based on game progression, Ubisoft generally lets you explore your own will. But when you're more or less granted a lot of space and plenty of missions to investigate from the start of the game, you automatically lower the stakes and open the door for a tedious experience. Storytelling is the first victim of Ubisoft's open world games. It just seems like Ubisoft mastered a certain style of gameplay many years back, but are holding on to it without any innovation and change. The issue isn't the presence of the elements, it's that they feel lifted from other Ubisoft titles, but somehow aren't the best version of these elements. Dozens of games have followed the Ubisoft formula for years. Fill in a map by getting to a high point, bloat the world with endless and pointless map markers, and leave the story an afterthought to the mediocre gameplay. Valhalla's base game includes 5 maps. You start off in Norway, then England, Vinland, and finally in Asgard and Jotunheim. England is by far the most bloated map of them all. Let me just show you a zoomed out interactive version of this map from Map Genie. Yeah. Now to be fair, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's interactive maps don't look too dissimilar, mostly because of the large amount of Korok shit present throughout. The difference here is that I enjoyed the exploration in both of those games. Letting the world take me where it wanted to felt natural in those games, especially without the million map markers scattered around like there are in Valhalla. In Valhalla, I grudgingly followed the map markers to the next stupid reward that I would not remember. Moreover, I can remember side quests from Tears of the Kingdom despite the fact that I've only played the story once. I can't remember anything from Valhalla. Well, except fighting with a squirrel. There were hundreds of side quests, side missions, chests, resources, and other extra content littered throughout each of Valhalla's maps, but I can't remember a damn thing about any of them. Open worlds are often large but barren, giving a player a vast space to explore with nothing of consequence in it. Exploration starts to feel cheap as players uncover the same items over and over again, or watch as their actions do little to change the game world. Sometimes what a player wants is a large world, not an open one. Why have a game stacked with content if most of that content is worthless? Even players who do just the main story will find it to be a slogfest. Valhalla's main story is largely uninteresting. Now that's not to say that it didn't have some strong suits. For one, the modern part of the story was interesting and part of the reason why I continued playing, but there were so many diversions and subplots within the main story that by the time I got to the end, I really wanted it to end. Overall, it's just way too fucking long. I will admit that it could be possible that some of my feelings are clouded because I've never played any other Assassin's Creed games. So if you've been a longtime fan of the series, please let me know what you thought of Valhalla. Regardless of my past or lack thereof with previous games, I can still tell when a story is too long for my liking. Valhalla's story and gameplay recycles the same formula over and over again. I remember when I thought I was nearing the end of the game and I got sent to Jotunheim. I opened up the map and I saw the 30 or so gold map markers and literally rage quit the game. You see, for one of the trophies, you need to complete every mystery, wealth, and artifact mapper for every single map in the game. For some games, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but for Valhalla, it was torture. I thought that the game was over at this point. To discover another map that I had to run through, I was really fucking annoyed. What do you get for doing every gold marker on Jotunheim's map? 5 skill points. Great. Well, at least this reward was somewhat useful, unlike the dozens of others which provided a bunch of materials that I don't even remember getting, let alone actually using. After Jotunheim, somehow the story just kept going. I was finally sick of it one day and just decided to do a 6-hour grind where I finished out the tail end of the game, rushing through dialogue and action sequences because I was just that done with the shit. I have not picked up the game since I finished it. Essentially, the thing that is often most important in open world titles, regardless of the size of the game's world, is what I have started to call density of meaningful content. You can have the largest game world ever created, but if it isn't filled with interesting stuff for players to do, then it means absolutely nothing in the end. A large, empty world devoid of content has been the downfall of many ambitious games in recent years, and it will likely be the same for many more to come. My experiences with open world games, however, is just my preference and is by no means an objective analysis. Although I do think that no matter what, every gamer can agree that there is a problem with open worlds, whether you believe it to be big or small. This isn't to say that the open world format is bad, just that there are a lot of problems it can suffer from that aren't addressed because open world games almost always sell well. From a company's perspective, there's little merit in spending time and money changing something that's already making them money. When you played a game for hundreds of hours and still find a reason to pick it up, and you still feel that excitement that you did when you first played it, that is a good game in my opinion. But experiences like these are few and far between. The Witcher 3 is, in my opinion, an exemplary open world game, and the perfect example of what game developers should do when creating open worlds. It's true that the game has some map markers that are time consuming to complete and not very rewarding. Skellige, I'm looking at you. But these are few and far between. Like Valhalla, The Witcher 3 has multiple large maps, but completing them, except for Skellige, never made me feel like I was losing my mind. This is probably also due to the fact that The Witcher's story is solid, as well as the gameplay, not to mention the fact that Geralt is one of my favorite protagonists in a video game. Released in 2015, The Witcher 3 was truly ahead of its time. On top of this, like all good open world games, the exploration in The Witcher was genuinely exciting, filled to the brim with intriguing and unique characters and side quests. No matter how many times I would enter Novigrad to sell a bunch of useless shit that I looted from boats in the middle of the ocean in order to afford a newly forged sword, I would always get excited. The city felt real, and I enjoyed coming back to it time and time again. The Witcher 3 also excels in atmosphere, with one of the best soundtracks from the past decade of gaming. I still remember when I first played the game and was still figuring out how to function as Geralt. I can't for the life of me remember what side quest it was, but I do remember that I was supposed to protect this guy's brother or something, and it ended up failing spectacularly. I got bro mauled. I didn't have a backup save from before this moment, and all I remember was the guy who gave me the quest telling me off and leaving me with a giant red failed marker on the quest. It was my first failed quest. I felt so bad for this random NPC. A notable NPC that I still think about to this day was an elf on the outskirts of Novigrad that Geralt met during his quest to find Dandelion. During their meeting, the elf, Elihal, reveals that he's a crossdresser and that he and Dandelion apparently had a lovely evening where they just spoke.
So you're Elihal. Did you and Dandelion... how did you two meet?
I met him one night in a tavern. He was blind drunk.
What happened?
What do you think? We spoke.
I think about Elihal to this day. I mean, what a queen. I don't remember any character from Valhalla, let alone the main character's name. The Witcher 3 does almost everything right that you could do in an open world game. Hell, I even collected every Gwent card and had a baying time doing so because Gwent is fun as hell. Orlog or even Machine Strike could never be her. Another game that excels in the open world is From Software's 2022 Elden Ring. Now, Elden Ring is not without its issues, which I'll get to in a moment, but the map itself and the exploration in particular is fantastic. Torrent? Not so much. Roach would never do that to me. Anyway, while you'd think that the player's steed being janky would be a deal breaker in an open world game, it actually doesn't ruin the exploration in Elden Ring. Elden Ring's map, from the map perspective, is huge, but instead of feeling dread when a new area was opened up, I instead felt excitement. Elden Ring, like Breath of the Wild, rarely utilizes map markers, so the map doesn't feel overwhelming or cluttered. Instead, the player is rewarded by exploring the world naturally on foot, or on an unfortunate horseback. On top of this, while Elden Ring's map feels huge, it isn't actually that overwhelmingly big when you explore it on foot. You can get from one end to Caelid to the other in about 2 minutes. If you don't die, that is. The game offers up bite-sized and fun exploration as you progress deeper into the world, rather than overwhelm you all at once during the start. If you actually, scratch that, when you reach an area or a boss that you can't complete on your current level, you can always return back. It actually feels rewarding to check off each area as you progress. Killing the dragon in Limgrave after screaming and running away the first time I saw it felt extremely rewarding. When you accidentally get teleported to Caelid within the first few hours of the game, unable to do much of anything except escape, or die, and come back later when you can actually handle it, it feels liberating. Exhilarating even. When you first discover that there is an entire underneath portion to the game, it feels shocking. Elden Ring's Underground, unlike Tears of the Kingdom, values quality over quantity, only covering certain parts of the map, with each serving its own purpose in the main and side stories, instead of just repeating the same environment over and over again for hundreds of kilometers. Instead of the game telling the player to do X, it lets them create their own route through it. The player is the one who creates the mental map as to the rules and discoveries. This feels like a world that has existed for some time, and all the exploration and challenges are organic to the setting itself. That's not to say that some of the world structure is not without its faults. For one, the repetitive nature of some of the mini-bosses is annoying. I mean, how many times must I fight this horrid scarlet rot tree spirit? On top of this, completing all of the caves begins to feel taxing by the end of the game, with the developers seemingly putting quantity over quality, with some of the games being unimaginative and bland. There are a ton of other things in Elden Ring that I could go over, like its bosses, which are an entirely other beast to tackle, so I'll link some videos down below that cover that topic much better than I can. Elden Ring's openness, though, is also a part of its downfall. For players who are unfamiliar with From Software's games, Elden Ring can be a tough entry point, not necessarily because of its difficulty, but because of its lack of information. Sure, you could play the game blind without ever looking anything up, but I'm talking about completing these games to completion. In Elden Ring, there's no way you're completing much of anything without a guide. It takes the let the player find their own path a bit too far for me. There are no quest logs, quest markers, no real way to track your progression. You have the Sites of Grace, and that's it. For a player who just wants to complete the main story, they'll likely not have an issue doing so, but Elden Ring has a wide variety of interesting side quests and characters, exactly what I want in an open world. A player would be remiss to not interact with this optional side content, especially since some of the worlds can be very tantalizing depending on what build you want. If you want to reach perfect poise, you'll have to complete the Volcano Manor side quest in its entirety, but don't kill that one NPC you met at the very beginning of the game, or you'll never be able to fully complete it. How are you supposed to know that? I don't know. Figure it out. This freedom isn't necessarily a bad thing, since some freaks like me enjoy creating entire roadmaps for how to get over 900 items in one game. But some of the optional content in this game, like the side quests, are incredibly obscure and hard to figure out without any sort of guide. Many of them are convoluted and boring, and sometimes offer little to no reward. While Assassin's Creed Valhalla held the player's hand, showing them exact map markers and directions for quests, Elden Ring is the exact opposite end of the spectrum, leaving players with no way to track quests except for a little map marker showing where each NPC is. Don't forget though, you can't talk to this person until you talk to this person, or else when you go back to talk to that person, they'll be dead, and then that person will also be dead. Doesn't that sound hard to keep track of? It's just shame since the game had so many positives. The NPCs are all interesting, and I do enjoy their storylines. And I also enjoyed uncovering information about Elden Ring's world, no matter how convoluted it is. But I would be lying if I said it couldn't be better. Despite all that, I still think that Elden Ring is a solid open world experience in terms of exploration alone. A perfect open world game, however, would include not only great exploration, but also good traversal, excellent storytelling within the main story and side quest, memorable characters, and be sized well. No game has done this though. If I were to try and pick one for the top spot, it'd have to be Breath of the Wild or The Witcher. But both of these, like I said, are not without their issues. Breath of the Wild's story is not that compelling, but The Witcher's traversal is pretty miserable. Sorry, Roach. And some may find the long story and multiple maps to be more overwhelming than enjoyable. What I'm trying to say is that this is all based on preference. You may have liked Valhalla more than me, or hated one of the games that I praised today. I'm sure you'll be sharing your thoughts down below, but in reality, there is no perfect open world experience. Now, there are definitely bad ones, but there are no perfect open world games. Whether or not you like a game is based off of the experience that you get with it. Hell, there are plenty of games I love partly just because of the time that I played them in my life. These are games that I love more than anything, but that I also have some of the strongest criticisms for. When you love something so passionately, you wish that it was perfect. I don't talk about my gamer alter ego on this channel much because it's not my main niche, but it is one of the things I am the most passionate about. I want game developers to stop pushing out shitty releases year after year with no thought put into them besides copy and paste. There are many positives within a linear story, and there are also downsides. The same goes for an open world experience. It all depends on what you're trying to convey with your game. The problem is that a lot of AAA game developers just want to push out bigger worlds with more content, more fluff, instead of games filled with unique and immersive experiences. Honestly, most of the problems within the gaming industry would be solved if companies were not so greedy. You all know who I'm thinking about right now. Instead, we're left to sift through the hundreds of releases in a year, hoping that we find something that will actually be worth our valuable time. To be clear, the issues with open world games isn't exclusive to that game design. It's just more common due to the fact that it's, I don't know, an open world? For instance, players looking to 100% linear games will also find that some linear games can suffer from too much content that doesn't offer valuable rewards. The 2016 Attack on Titan game offered an interesting experience. What AOT fan doesn't want to try out omnidirectional mobility gear for themselves? However, when I went to look at the roadmap for the Platinum Trophy, I could tell that I was going to have a rough time getting there. You see, there's a gallery in that game which is essentially just a collection of every item you can get in the game. Some are unlocked through natural progression, others, well, You basically need to play the game on the hardest difficulty in order to get all the materials you need to upgrade your weapons, which is bad enough, but the worst part is just how fucking time-consuming all of this is. And for what? Just to say that I completed the gallery in the Attack on Titan game? I do, of course, include that on my resume, but that's beside the point. It was a slogfest worse than Valhalla, simply because I had to do the same few levels over and over again in order to get certain materials. Whoever made that game is quite possibly a psychopath. It seems that any game can be bad regardless of whether it's linear or open world. No shit. At the end of the day, I wish that I could fix all the issues that are present within open world games, but I can't. All I can do is sit behind a camera and complain in the format of an 8,000 word essay. If you're beginning to feel burnt out with a game or with gaming in general, just take a break. It will be there when you're ready to come back, unless someone robs you, but I'm assuming that's not happening. You can't let a poorly designed game ruin your love for gaming, because poorly designed games will always be here. And so will I. I would never take a break from gaming. In fact, I'm preparing for my next Elden Ring playthrough. I only have a few hundred more items to get, and one more playthrough to get the platinum. I'm actually in the mood to play some right now, so I think I'm just gonna end the video here. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all later. Bye. Fuck! That's it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Okay, wait, one more time. One more time. Well, that's it for me, and that's it for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. I know I strayed a bit from the topics I usually cover, but gaming genuinely is a big part of my life, and I've had this idea for a while, and I finally wanted to actually do it. I really hope you like this video, and if you're a gamer, even if you're not a gamer, just comment down below anything you want to comment down below. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like me, you can subscribe. I post videos about whatever I feel like talking about. So if that sounds like your thing, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you know when I post a video. Before the video ends, I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members who are part of my Alpha and Delta tiers. Thank you so much to Zelkova Saltz, Olivia Schutt, Romana Zarovko, Malin Weird Items, and Dallas Andrade. I seriously appreciate all of your continued support. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much to all my Patreon members. If you want to become a member, the link will be down below. Anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this video, but more importantly than that, I really hope I see you in the next video. You're gonna be there, right? Right? Bye.